It's great to have you all here. The name of our organization is Training Heights. That's the name of our organization. And I'm Dr. Orlando Lumdo-Dejide, as I mentioned earlier. So it'd be nice if you connect with me. I try to post regularly on LinkedIn. So if you connect with me, that would be great. Also, Training Heights has got it's got all sorts of communities, and we don't share junk. We share very important things relative to what we do as an organization. So Training Nights is on the screen, everybody. This is who we are. This is what we do as an organization. So you will see the key things that we do as an organization. We're an organization of 23 years. So we're not a young organization. We're 23 years old as an organization that will be running this organization, and we offer accredited training services. So we are the training services, we don't bring them from under our beds. We run accredited training services. We're accredited by different organizations, EC Council, PECB, TNV, TUV, People Search for ITIL, Prince 2, PMI. We are accredited by different organizations. So that's what stands us out as an organization. We offer accredited training and certification courses. They're accredited. They're not designed by myself. They're accredited. So we have to go through annual accreditation for many things as an organization. And that indeed is our competitive advantage as an organization. So please follow us. I'm sure the team will share in the chat room our social media links and our WhatsApp link so that we can invite. We do these things every quarter. This is like the third one we're doing this year. I know we've done something on business analysis. I know we've done something on project management. I know we've done something on ITIL. They would also share the YouTube links where some of these things are recorded as it is. So that is that. So this is my humble self. My line of work is governance, risk, compliance, and sustainability, both on the business side and even on the IT side. And I've done these things for an extended period of time. I think I've been working for about 25 years as a person for thereabout. So I've got that's quarter of a century that I've been working in professional services along all these types of things. And once again, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm the CEO of Training Heights. And I don't know whether my colleague, Mr. Muyo, who's the managing director, is also on the call, and all the great people of Training Heights. Okay, so I also did 9001 a month ago thereabouts. So, Bottom, please share the 9001 recording. I think we should put it in the chat room so that people can look at it. And I had an extensive conversation around this. The last month when I was doing 9001, it was an extensive conversation that I had around this, whereby I was telling everybody that, you know, that it's the form of ISO standards versus the essence, right? Most people are very much interested in the form. And if you look at the left side of my screen, you will see the things that most people worry about. Most people worry about the form of things, but the form is very important, and that's critical if you're going to get certified to one ISO standard or the other. But even more importantly, is the essence. Even more importantly is the essence, right? So the form of something is very important. The form of everything is important, but more importantly is the essence of it. And the challenge with most ISO persons is that most people are driven more around the form of in which the ISO standard is taken. They're not very much driven about the essence of it. And I think you and I, we should focus on both. We need to balance both of them. But even if we had to pick just one, even if we had to pick just one area, then we should pick the essence. The essence of it is why the organization is doing it. It's the value they're going to get. Is the benefits that they're going to get from this. So this is not just about certification. You know, some organizations are only interested in the certification, only in that they just want to get their organization certified. But I think you should think further than that. You should start to think about the outcomes, the results, the value, the benefits, the risks that you reduce, and similar type things as an organization. So that's the first thing I want everybody to take note of. You really should worry about the form, but even more importantly, you should worry about the essence. I know clients that have had ISO standards for 10, 15, 20 years, but they don't really get the essence out of it, because the auditors, the implementers, the consultants, all those persons, they're very much into the form of the ISO standard. They're not really focused on the essence of it. And I think you and I, as modern people who are going to be practicing these things from the year 2026, even into the future. The last version of this standard that we're looking at today was updated about 10 years ago. So for the next 10 years, about 10, 11 years ago, so for the next 10, 11 years, you and I should turn the table around and start to think about the essence of these management systems rather than just the form in which they do exist. And I hope this is clear to everybody. In the same vein is where I have also captured the conversation around the outputs versus the outcomes. Everybody, people think these words, they mean the same. They think the output versus the outcome, they think they mean the same. But these things don't mean the same. Outputs are different from the outcome. Outputs indeed are different from the outcome. So it's important that you get this right, that you as a person, you understand that what the output of something versus the outcome of that particular thing. The output of something versus the outcome of that particular thing. So this is important, and this is essential that you get this right as it is. Okay, so let you and I once again in the same spirit, you and I should be focused on the outcomes that our organization is going to get, not just the output. The outcome that our organization is going to get out of this, not just the output in itself. Okay, right. So once again, I can talk about this for an entire day, really looking at outputs versus outcomes. But I mean, I think the illustration on the screen is clear enough for everybody to understand what it is that I'm trying to say here when it comes to outputs and outcomes. And once again, I'm not saying that one is not important. No, I'm just saying that one is more important than the other. So the idea for me is not that one is not important. The idea is that one is more important than the other. And please take this into keen consideration. At the end of the day, organizations spend monies on these ISO standards. They train their employees, they hire consultants, they get external auditors, they buy equipment, they put controls in place, they buy software, they do all sorts of things. But the reason why they're doing all that is not just for doing sake, it's simply because of the outcomes they're hoping to get. And I think you and I, once again, we should be focused on the outcomes. Of course, we should not necessarily ignore the outputs, but more importantly is to focus on the outcomes. Right, good. So I want everybody to go to the chat room. Which one are you? Which is your area of work? Well, maybe I'm not even interested in your area of work. Right? Maybe I'm interested in where do you want to focus as a person into the future? Do you want to focus on business-related standards or IT-related standards? Everybody, I want you to go into the chat room. You can only pick one area. You can either pick business-related or IT-related, right? So everybody in the chat room, because what I've captured in the chat room here, on the screen here, are the key areas when it comes to ISO standards. It's either you're doing something that is very business-related, and when you're doing business-related, I have put all the things that are very business-like, or you want to be on the IT side. So everybody, I want to read from everybody quickly. What are you? What is your future? I don't even care about your present. I care about your future. Where is your future going to be? I care about your future, right? So everybody tell, no, Farouk, I disagree. I'm not accepting both. I'm not accepting both. All right. So I want to count. No, I don't want both. I want one. Alberto, I want one. I don't want both. Yeah. No, I don't want both. I want you to pick one. Pick either business or IT. Where will the next 10 years of your life be focused on? I don't want you to tell me both. All right. So it's either it's business or it's IT. The next 10 years of your life, where is it going to be? Is it going to be business or is it going to be IT? Is it going to be business or is it going to be IT? So, Bodo, let us see who is winning. Is it the business people that are winning today or it's the IT people that are winning? It seems the business people are winning today. It seems the business people are winning today, right? Because it's very difficult. I mean, except you've been working along these things for a long time. I'm very lucky. My entire career, I've been on the, I've been, my entire career, I've worked on the consultant side. I've never had a role as IT officer or environmental officer or quality officer. I've never had those kinds of roles in my life. My entire life, I've worked from the consulting perspective. So that has allowed me to do many things. In the last 10 years, I have audited any and everything. But it's very difficult for you to say that you're going to have specialization on both columns. So Isaac, I don't agree, and I didn't even give you that option. It's really difficult for you to say you're going to be a deep expert, a deep expert on both sides. It's going to be very difficult, all right? Except you're lucky that someone like myself, your work has moved you across both areas. But for most people, they will end up just being in one of the verticals as it is. So because you need a lot of experience and a lot of depth to be able to do this. The skill sets, the capabilities to be able to do either of these columns will take a long time for you to build. Will take a very, very long time for you to build. And if you work internally in an organization, hardly would you be able to say that you've been able to build over 10 years deep expertise. I'm talking about deep global expertise. I'm not talking about the expertise that allows you to just survive or to do something. I'm talking about deep expertise where you can take your expertise to Deloitte or to KPMG in that particular area. You can take it to Citibank, you can take it to HSBC, you can take it to those types of organizations. You're going to need some time to do that. And so, I mean, it's not bad if you pick a specialization. I don't really think, except you're way more experienced than I am, I don't think you should try to be an expert on both column 1 and column 2. I don't think so. I do not think you should try to be an expert on the whole of column 1 and column 2. And I might be wrong. I'm just sharing my thoughts, right? Because I think you need deep expertise. To pick an area, but I understand what you're saying. I understand definitely what you're saying, Farouk, right? You've been doing one in the past. Now you want to go ahead to focus on something else. Makes sense. Makes sense as it is. Okay. Yeah, and I think organizations should adopt ISO standards. If you look at my screen, I've said it in there. I think organizations should adopt ISO standards. Adopting ISO standards does not necessarily mean that they need to be certified towards these standards. You know, those are two different things. Adoption is what I think organizations should think about. Certification is icing on cake. It's cream on cake. The most important thing is to even to even understand the standard in itself. But certification is cream on cake. As it is, but adopt the standard. So everybody, these go away, knowing that there are so many standards that are tied to different disciplines and different areas of work. And it's important that organizations that they adopt all these standards, right? But they don't have to get certified to them. So I made a clear distinction between adoption versus certification. I made a clear difference between adoption and certification in itself. And that's very important, as I said. I'm going to move on very quickly once again. So, I mean, this is the other problem, right? A lot of people want to do a particular area of work, but they don't understand the should I say the subject area? I think that's a great way for me to put it. People want to do something. They want to do information security. So if I come back here, for example, the people want to say, oh, I'm a trainer or implementer or auditor, but they don't really understand information security in depth. Same thing with IT service management, same thing with business continuity, same thing with privacy and data protection. I was having a session recently and I was asking the people that what's the difference between privacy and data protection. I was also asking them what's the difference between information security and cybersecurity. Now, which one is a subset of the other one? So people want to do these things, but they don't really build what I would like to refer to as deep expertise in the subject matter. Okay? And if you're going to get this right, you have to really build some real expertise in the subject matter. You have to go in depth if you're going to become that global person. That person that wants to go to Diageo or Guinness or wants to go to Shell and wants to get a high-level job in one of those organizations, you're going to need some deep expertise in the subject matter. And that's a big challenge. A lot of people don't have expertise in the subject matter. So health and safety subject matter is different from environmental subject matter. Health and safety is different from environmental. Environmental is different from quality. All these areas are very deep subject matter areas. And so for environmental management, the key thing is how much of this do you understand? Because this is an area of expertise. It's a subject matter. Some people go to the university, undergrad, they study this. This is what they study in their undergrad. Some people, this is what they study in their master's degree, their postgraduate. Some people have a PhD in this particular area. So you can't just say that you're going to become a great environmental management implementer or great environmental management auditor or trainer if you don't have the right expertise in the area of work. I've seen people who say, oh, I do this particular management system. But if you ask them about the area of work, they don't understand it. So how are you going to train people on it? How are you going to implement these things? And how are you going to audit people for it? How are you going to do that? Okay. Right? How on earth are you going to do that? And this is the big challenge. And I have slides like this. I mean, I don't want to get distracted. The thing that is coming to my mind is to go to open a different set of slides that show the subject matter area when it comes to health and safety, the subject matter area when it comes to information security, because each of these things, they have a certain subject matter. All right, and it's important. Now, this list here, this list here is my list. The list is not in the standard. This is my own list. I was working with a client, and it was an environmental management system, and I really just wanted to understand the scope and the extent and the key areas. So I documented this for the client. And this was an audit. So ordinarily, I shouldn't even have been doing this, but I was so confused in terms of how they structured their environmental management system. So I documented this and I showed it to the client and I said, tell me which areas have you really taken into consideration as part of your environmental management system. And if you look at the list on my right, so that was what I showed to the client. I said, let us walk through these 15 areas and tell me what is included and what is excluded from your environmental management system. And until they were able to point out which area, number one, they weren't even thinking about it that way. They had hired a consultant. The consultant had built an environmental management system for them, but they themselves, the consultant never really focused on the specific things they were doing in what areas to address the environmental aspects. So we were seated in a session And they couldn't even tell me that, oh, you know what, this is what we have done with regards to noise pollution. They couldn't tell me that. This is that, oh, they couldn't tell me that water pollution is applicable to us as an organization because some of our activities are causing the pollution of the waters in our environment as it is, and this is what we have done to address it. They couldn't tell me that, oh, you know what, we do CO2 emissions from our generators, and it is this amount of CO2, and this is what we are doing to curb it or to address it. And they had put in front of me a set of documents, and they were hoping to get certified. But they had not nailed down specifically which of these areas were of the activities in their organization, which of these areas was their business activities, their operational activities contributing towards. And the specific interventions, everybody, are you listening to me? The specific interventions that they've taken into consideration relative to this. And that's a challenge. So once again, these are the things you and I need to think about when it comes to this. And I've got some other slides in front of me that talked about that. So let me bring you here, for example. So everybody, if you look at my screen, so I put those same 15 areas in here where I've been able to say, this is what waste is. This is the description of waste. This is how waste in itself, or the waste disposal and management, is destroying the environment. These are the opportunities, and these are some of the interventions. And I want everybody to take a minute to look at my screen. Because if, in fact, under the interventions, I'll put the intervention from the private organizations and even what the regulators and the government institutions should be doing. I can tell everybody that this is the core area of work. And if you don't understand this core area of work, you will not be able to implement or train or audit or effectively contribute towards environmental management systems. You will not be able to do it. Except you really nail down what is the aspect that our organizational processes, culture, outputs, activities, operations, which of this is our organization contributing towards? What is the threat? Is there an opportunity tied to it? And what exactly is the intervention from our own organization as a private institution and even public institutions? And this is not an exhaustive list. This is not even a global list. This list is from my head as it is. So once again, this is important. Everybody that has a plan for themselves or for their organization to do anything that is tied to environmental management, everybody that is like that must take all these things into consideration. Must take waste, CO2 emissions, dust, blast, water, and all that into keen consideration relative to yours. Okay? Now look at the other list. And once again, I'm going to give you a minute to look at this, everybody. And start to pen down which of this really matters to my own organization. Which one should we take into consideration in my organization relative to environmental management system? I'll give you a minute. And lastly, it's here. Lastly, it is here. So this is the real work, everybody. This is the job. We're going to look at the standard, but the standard is a secondary issue here. The first thing is to really understand what exactly is your organization doing that is contributing to the degrade or the improvement of the environment. But of course, most of us, we're degrading the environment with one organizational activity or the other. This is the work. And if we go into the standard and you don't understand some of these fundamental things, then you're going to struggle significantly. And I hope this is clear so that I can move on. Once again, what is the aspect? What is the description of that aspect? I intentionally use the word threat here because, risk can be both positive and negative. It can be negative as a threat. It can be positive as an opportunity. So I intentionally did that here, right? So that you're thinking about the threat of what that particular thing relative to your own organization, because environmental management system is an organizational thing. At least it is primarily an organizational thing. It's primarily an organizational thing. Then what is the opportunity? It's primarily an organizational. Now, what is the opportunity? Maybe there's something good that can come out of that particular thing if you turn it on its head and turn it around. And lastly, what exactly are the interventions from both private and even public institutions? What should the regulator be doing? What should the public institutions be doing? And what should each of our own organizations, the insurance company, the bank, the manufacturing company, the oil and gas company, all those entities, what should they be doing relative to each of these areas? As I said, this is the most important portion of the course as far as I'm concerned. Clarity around which of these 15 things directly or indirectly affects your organization, which of them does your organization directly or indirectly contribute to in terms of negatively or the degrade of the environment relative to these things, and then a full assessment of what needs to be done because there is an intervention. Imagine people build management systems without those interventions. I mean, how can people think that only Word and Excel documents are enough as the interventions? Everybody look at the things that I've captured here on the interventions. So a lot of organizations do not carry out these interventions. Nevertheless, they're certified to the standard. And that's a shame. That's a big shame. You don't have evidence that you have put in place specific interventions. You have not bought dust suppression systems, monitoring systems. You haven't done any of these things. Yet, you say you have an environmental management system. How does that work? If you don't put these things in place, you cannot truly say you have an environmental management system. And I want you to share your thoughts with me. How many clients do you know that have truly put these things in place? In your existing place of work, in your former place of work, how much of these interventions have organizations put in place? Even the ones that are certified to this particular standard. How much of this? I can tell you up front, not a lot. I can tell you for free, not a lot. And that's something else. All right. Once again, I want to move on very quickly because of our time. All right. So everybody, if you look at here, okay. So what is the environment? All right. And why should we care? What is the environment and why should why should we care? That's very important. What is the environment and why should we care? The environment is everything. Is everything. The water we drink, the land we live on, the plants, animals, the environment is everything. And you and I should care. We should care. All right? Because if there's no environment, there will be no life, and all of us will be dead, and the world will come to an end. So, and that's why the concept of you and I doing whatever it is that we can do to ensure that the environment is sustainable into the far future is very important. Okay? So it's everything. The environment is everything. You can't take out one portion. It's the atmosphere, it's the hydrosphere, it's the lithosphere, it's the biosphere, it's everything. The environment is everything. The environment is everything. So, and that's why it's important to really understand that when you're building an environmental management system, what portion is in scope, what portion is out of scope? What portion are you taking into consideration? It's not just about following through with the clauses of the standard. The clauses of the standard are extremely important. But it's more important that you really understand what exactly are the interventions that we're putting in place especially for the areas that we are contributing to towards the destruction or the degrade of that particular thing as an organization. So the environment is everything. The environment is everything. The environment disappears, you and I will also have to disappear. And this is important, and it's critical that we all take this into keen consideration. So why should we care? All right, why should we care? I mean, once again, we'll be gone. The environment, if it's consistently and continuously degraded, then you and I will have to disappear. So this is collective responsibility. And that's why I said every organization should be worried about the environment. Everybody should do something relative to the environment. I don't think anybody should ignore any part or any portion of the environment. Every organization should worry about the environment. Every individual also, every professional. Because without the environment, all of us need to take this on our heads. We need to carry it like our goal, one of those persons. Each of us need to carry this on our heads and start to say, what do we need to do from where we sit, tied to our own contribution? What can we do to ensure that the environment remains for an extended period of time? I've itemized 8 benefits from my perspective, everybody. I've itemized 8 benefits from my perspective that organizations and even homes and maybe even individuals who decide to take this seriously will get from it. This is not an exhaustive list. It's also not the only list that does exist, but this is something, this is good enough for all of us to think about and to consider. For effective and efficient, but what do we get? What does an organization get? What does the world get? What does a country get? What does the municipal or a state government or a community, what do they get if environmental management is done effectively and efficiently? What are they going to get out of it? And I've captured some key things in here that an organization can get out of it. Okay, I'm going to move on very quickly because of our time. So once again, environment is key. This is not a nice to have session. This is a must have session. So a healthy environment is the foundation of healthy people, a thriving organization. So every organization should have an environmental management system in place, whether the regulator has said so or not. Everybody should have an environmental management system in place, whether it's a certified version or a non-certified version, but everybody should have an environmental management system in place. I've got one of my mentors is on the call, Mr. Chukuma. Yeah, also, Mr. Chukuma, please share your thoughts. That's the permanent secretary of a state government somewhere in Nigeria that is driving environmental management in an entire state. So he's one of my mentors when it comes to this area of work. So please, everybody should leave, all of us should take a screenshot here and send it to somebody, send it to our managing director, send it to our colleagues. Tell everybody and show everybody that the environment is the collective responsibility of all of us. It's not for some people. The environment is the collective responsibility of all of us. And we all should take the environment very seriously because it's just important and critical to our lives. All right, I've showed the screen before. Sorry. My final thoughts, everybody, I don't want to have to read it to people. The very intelligent people that are on this call. Some of you have way more experience than I do when it comes to this area. So some of you are experts as it is. So, all right. So these are my final thoughts. All right. I'm constrained for time, so I cannot give you all the time that you require. But yeah, I'll give you a minute. All right. So which of this, everybody go into the chat room, which of this statement is your favorite statement? They're like slogans, all right, aphoristic statements with regards to the environment. So which is your favorite slogan here? Please put it in the chat room very quickly. Which is your favorite slogan here? In the chat room, everybody. Quickly. Let's do that very quickly. All right. Okay, good. So, I mean, they're all nice things to say. So, everybody, you can pick yours and all that. Yeah, but the very important things to say with regards to the environment. I wanted to lay this background before jumping straight into the standard. I wanted to lay this background for the people that are just coming. I showed everybody this earlier. For the people that are just coming now, I showed everybody this earlier. And everybody needs to do this kind of exercise in their own organization, depending on which of these areas that are applicable. Everybody needs to do an assessment like this. So it's important to know what areas is your organization contributing negatively towards, a detailed description of that area. What is the threat to the environment from that area that your organization is negatively contributing towards? Is there an opportunity in there? An opportunity to support the environment, an opportunity to show yourself to show yourself as a sustainable organization that cares about the sustainable world. And then the interventions. The most important portion on this whole page is the interventions, everybody. Because an environmental management system is not a set of documents alone. It's specific interventions. And if you're going to get this right, you're going to have to really spend some time to put these interventions in place. A policy is great, but a policy is not as good as ensuring that you have a dust suppression system. A policy or a procedure is great, but the policy and the procedure is not as great as having a wastewater treatment plant. A policy and a procedure and a process is great, but not as important as you having noise barriers. There are specific things that must be done by an organization, depending on the area that is applicable to you and to your own organization. There are specific things that should be done. Once again, I'll share this with you. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I just had to make some of these things very clear even at the very beginning. Otherwise, we jump straight into the standard, and the people I've seen that people understand the standards, but they don't understand the aspects. So how are you going to do this properly? You don't understand the aspects and what needs to be done to address these aspects, but you understand the standard. That is completely wrong. That is putting the cart before the horse, as they say. You have to understand the aspects, then the standard, or an alignment between both. But if you don't understand the aspects, then you're going to implement and audit and train and adopt the standard wrongly as it is. And I hope the message is clear to everybody. Okay, I'm going to move on very quickly. Another thing is that most people think that ESG is equal to just the environment. In fact, some people think ESG is equal to the environment. Some people also think that SDG is equal to the environment. So if I get the opportunity, I will say the ESG is bigger than the environment alone. Right? ESG is bigger than the environment alone. ESG is bigger than the environment. ESG is way bigger than the environment. So, and in the same vein, let me do that here. That SDG is also bigger than the environment alone. Right? Sorry. Yeah. Let me also do this. That SDG in itself is also bigger than the environment. The environment is a subset of ESG, and the environment is also a subset of SDG. So you and I cannot afford to go to places and start to tell them that the whole of ESG is equal to the environment, or the whole of SDG is equal to the environment. So no, the environment is a subset of ESG, is also a subset of SDG. But the big concern here, and everybody, you should please listen to this. a lot of organizations are writing ESG reports on an annual basis, and they have not implemented an environmental management system. I'm not even talking about a certified one. I'm just talking about the implementation of an environmental management system. How on earth are they then doing their ESG reporting? Because ESG is made up of three parts. There is the E, there is the S, and then there is the G. There is the E, there is the S, and then there is the G. So in a sense, let me write this here just for the purposes of this meeting. In a sense, in a certain sense, right? In a certain sense, ESG is equal to ISO 14001, which is the environmental management system, plus ISO 26000, which is the global document for corporate social responsibility. Let me put this here, EMS, all right? Let me put this here. In a sense, let me put CSR here, though they didn't call it CSR, they just called it social responsibility. And then governance, which is 370, right? Or any other national code of corporate governance. Okay, so that's what ESG is. Now, our organizations doing their ESG reporting, if they have not put in place these ISO standards, maybe certified, maybe not necessarily certified, but at least they must have adopted the standards in their organization. So you can see that most ESG reporting is just what people refer to as greenwashing. You know, local parlance, they'll say now wash. It just means that people are just writing ESG reports that are not necessarily factual, because you can have some ESG report. If you have not implemented the environmental management system, maybe you go ahead to certify it, but at least the implementation. And then the international standard for corporate social responsibility, which is the next thing. And lastly, is either the global standard for corporate governance or the one for the national code of corporate governance in your own country. This is a big deal. We can talk about this all day. Well, I don't have all day, so I need to move very quickly. And then here also, lastly, before I go into the standard, there are so many versions, there are so many standards, everybody, that are related to the environment. But a lot of people don't know that. There are so many standards that are related to the environment, but a lot of people do not know that. A lot of people don't know that. They don't know that there are indeed many standards that relate. So it's not just the 14,001. There are many others. There are many others. So 14,001 is just one of them, but there are many others that are there. So, okay. So if you look on my screen, you've seen some. So you really want to do environmental management, there's a lot that you have to take into consideration. So I mean, there's some areas here that I really like. I've used some of these standards for some of my work. Every time I've used number 10 a lot. I've used number 7 a lot. Number 3 is very important. So there's so many of them. So it's not just one standard. There's so many other standards that are, so there's a client of mine that I was recommending number 6 to the client. Everybody look at number 6. That was a recommendation to one of my clients that they should look at this. So once again, these things are important. There's another list here. I've used number 19 a lot. I've used number 16 a lot as a person. I have somebody who's doing masters somewhere in the US on number 14 right now, who's doing a master's degree around number 14. Even this new version of this standard makes reference, brings number 20 into focus. So there's so many other documents. Some of us are very much into the climate side of things. Everybody look at number 11 and number 12. So just 14,001 does not give you all that you need. You're going to need more than that. So if you really want to practice this area of work, you also need to equip yourself with the other things. A lot of people don't even know about number 11 and number 12. Because Then people also, the other thing I see that people say the environment is equal to climate. Climate is just one area of the environment. It's just one area of the environment. The environment is way bigger and wider than just the climate. There's also the soil as it is. Can't remember who was doing some work with a while ago, and then the person was talking about which one was it now? I don't even think it's here. And the one for land, there's an ISO standard for the management of soil and land. Somebody should check it out for me. I've forgotten the name. The ISO standard for the management of soil and land, put it in the chat room for me. So once again, there are so many areas. So this is the new standard, everybody. So let me get straight into the new version of the standard. I know that I have a mixed audience. I have some people who are experts and they've done, I have some experts on the call and they've been practicing environmental management for system for a long time. But I also have some people who this is their first time they're ever going to do anything that is environmental management related. So I'm going to plead with the experts to please be patient because I'm going to talk about both the new and in a sense, I'm also going to refer to the old. So I'm going to try to touch on both the new version of the standard and the difference between the old and the new. But this is the new version. So the focus of today's session is this new version of the standard. That's the focus for today. My focus is on this new version of the standard in itself. And this is important and it is essential as it is. All right. So I've tried to summarize the whole standard on a single page, everybody. So have a look. Have a look, everybody. This is the entire standard, and I've summarized it all on a page, on a single page. This is the entire standard, and I've summarized everything on a single page. Okay? So if you know about management systems, I mean, I always tell people that one good thing about management, and I'll come back to this page in a minute. I always tell people that management systems contain 20 areas that I consider them to be MBA topics. Is what I tell people all the time. The management systems, they contain 20 areas that personally, I consider those 20 areas to be topics for an MBA class. And the idea here is that irrespective of who you are or what you do, these 20 areas you must know compulsorily as a person. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what your area of specialization is. These are 20 subject matter areas that all of us should know. All of us, with the exception of nobody. All of us should know these 20 areas. That means even if we're not talking about management systems, we should still know these 20 areas. I'm going to ask everybody, what do you know about these 20 areas? Do you understand strategy as a person? Do you understand stakeholder management as a person? Do you understand the concept of scope management, which they teach and demonstrate in project management? Do you understand what leadership means? Do you understand what the concept of a policy life cycle and how to manage that life cycle of a policy? I'm not talking about the national policy here now. I'm talking about organizational policies. Do you understand what it means to have organizational structure, to define roles and responsibilities? Do you understand the concept of risks and opportunities? Do you understand the concept of objective setting and planning? Do you understand that? Do you understand the concept of organizational change? This is not just tied to ISO standards, my brothers and sisters. This is something you should know in your life. As part of who you are, as part of the work that you do, these 20 concepts are important. What is the concept of resource management? What's the concept of managing competence in an organization? What's the concept of carrying out awareness for different things and communicating to both your internal and external stakeholders? What is the concept behind these things? What's the concept behind managing documents, behind managing operations relative to a particular thing? What's the concept of performance management? What's the concept of internal audit? These are 20 areas you need to know in your life and understand clearly. Either you're tied to a management system or you're tied to the environment, or just generally speaking. I think every HR themselves needs to ask that. Do the employees in our organization, the supervisors, the managers, do they understand this concept? With or without tying it to an ISO standard in itself. So on the basis of that, I'm going to go back here. Because if you understand this page, we can bring this course to a beautiful close right now. That you can't build a management system without understanding the context of the organization, the manufacturing company, a company in a manufacturing company in Ghana, in Kenya, in India, a bank. You must understand the context of the organization. You must understand the needs and the expectations and of all the interested parties. What are the interested parties? The employees of the organization, the customers of the organization, all those entities. What do they want and what do they need? The needs and the expectations of interested parties. You must clearly understand the concept of scope management. How do we manage the scope? How do we define the scope of the environmental management system? What aspects are in place and which ones are not? 4.4 is always very interesting because it talks about the connectedness of things, the relationship between things. That's what 4.4 is about. And I'll show you all this in a minute or in a few minutes. You can see leadership and their commitment. You can see the concept of an environmental management policy. You can see conversations around how do we define roles, responsibilities, and authorities. You can see 6.1 that talks about the actions to address risks and opportunities. You can see objectives and the plans we need to put in place to achieve those objectives. You can see the concept of change and how change significantly affects an organization and how we need to be proactive when it comes to change management. You can see resources, you can see competence of employees, you can see awareness of employees and other stakeholders. You can see the concept of even corporate communications under 7.1. And then documented the concept of managing documents in an organization. You can't have an office that does not have documents. It can't be called a company if they don't have documents. They must compulsorily have documents. Either soft copy, hard copy, digital versions, whatever, paper-based versions. Within every line of work, within every unit, within every department, there's the operations of that particular department. And because we're talking about the environment, we have to do something around our emergency and crisis type situations. Then, of course, our monitoring measurement and our monitoring analysis and evaluation, evaluation of compliance in itself. Because in most countries, there is a compliance issue around this. There is a compliance issue. Sorry, let me clarify it. Yeah, there is definitely a compliance issue around some of these things in most countries. Okay, so these are critical things. Yeah, I just wanted to make a simple correction here. I noticed it. Good. These are critical things that you want to take into keen consideration. The concept of internal audit, having an internal audit program, and how do we audit this area of work? The concept of getting our executives involved with what we're doing, which is the management review. How do we continually improve? And how do we catch all the areas where we call non-conformities or where something has gone wrong, or sometimes we call them exceptions, and what specific actions do we need to take? Ladies and gentlemen, that's the page that I showed you that is the most important page relative to understanding the area of work And then this page, which is the most important page relative to understanding the standard. There is the area of work. There is a subject matter area versus the standard. The standard is meant to be applied to the subject matter area. This page is meant to be applied to this page. Everybody, that page is meant to be applied relative to your concerns and the applicability of the things on this page to your organization. Some people who have masters, who have PhD, who have all sorts of things, they understand this area, but they don't understand the standard. Some people understand the standard, but they don't understand this page. It is both. It is both. You have to understand the area of work, and you must compulsorily also understand the international standard being used to drive this in itself. I hope we're clear. I'm going to go through this very quickly. I want to finish this session in the next 30 minutes. I'm going to go through this very quickly. All right. I want to take 30 minutes and I want to go through everything here. So I might not be able to spend all the time telling you the difference between the old versions of these things and the new version. I'm sure I can share a document to that effect. I don't have that amount of time, so I'm sorry because we have to close this soon. But these are some of the areas. I can send you a comprehensive list. Actually, those things exist. So somebody please check for me. Can you find the BSI document? Somebody should please check for me. There's a BSI document that clarifies the changes between the 14.001 2015 versus the 2025 version. Somebody should please check for me. There is a BSI document so that you can put the link to the document in the chat room. Okay? The link can be shared in the chat room. The BSI document, ISO 14.001 versus 2015 versus 2026 version. All right? Changes from the 2015 to the 2026 version. BSI has a document like that. A couple of other certification bodies also have a document like that. Key changes and how to prepare. Okay, I can see some document that says BSI key changes and how to prepare. Or a page. So there are so many things from different organizations that talk about the key changes. So somebody have found one of the links, so I hope somebody can share it in the chat room. So I'm not going to spend a lot of my time trying to really help identify each of those things because that will take too much of my time today. But they're there. There are many other documents that exist, right? So these are some of the areas. So I'm just going to go through the standard very quickly. And in certain places, I'll definitely point out the things that have changed. But I can't spend all my time doing that today. One of the beautiful things about the standard is this background. It has a beautiful background, everybody. So in the standard, this background is there. Started it. I really like, it's a beautiful way that they've approached this. And this is directly from the standard in itself. Beautiful. The way they've addressed it. So that's why we said the environment, the society, and the economy. And then societal expectations and the sustainable development and transparency. I really love this background. If you're writing an internal memo in your organization for the use and the adoption of this standard, this background will be good for your memo. Brilliant. It's a brilliant background. I really like it. Okay. I really like the background in itself. I like the way they put the sentences in there. If you look at the paragraph 2, look at some of those aspects that I'm talking about. waste, climate change, degradation of ecosystems, loss of biodiversity. And look at that sentence that says that undermining the environment can carry financial, social, and business consequences. Once again, this is a big deal. It's a big deal. So this is an updated standard. An updated standard. That, all right? But ISO has one nice small article that they've written. I'll get Borden to share it in the chat room. All right? There's there's a beautiful small write-up. Borden, please share it. I've sent it to you. Okay, so this is important. The background is great. From the standard in itself, you also see what exactly is the aim of the environmental management system. What exactly is the aim of the environmental management system? This is also from the standard. What is the aim of the environmental management system? So, of course, for your exam, you're going to need things like this: a framework to protect the environment, respond to changing environmental conditions, and things like that. And so the word sustainable development needs to be at the back of your mind. The word sustainable development, protect the environment, mitigate the potential adverse effects. I've said that a dozen and one times today. What is your organization doing that's negatively contributing to the environment, assisting the organization to meet its compliance obligations, enhancing environmental performance, communicating environmental information to relevant parties. So the aim is also very important. What does an organization need to do to ensure that the environmental management system is successful? What does an organization need to do to ensure that the organizational management system is successful? I have my own list apart from this. The board and the executives need to be completely involved. The board and the executives of the organization should be involved. You need competent employees. That's what all of you are here to do, to build and to improve on your competence relative to the management system. Of course, you need to carry out certain interventions. And of course, you also need to meet the requirements of the standard as evidence for adherence. So the success factors is also very important. And then we've always had this plan, do, check, act. But in the new version, see, everybody, they've turned the diagram around. Everybody, can you see my screen? They've turned the diagram from what it used to be to, they've turned it around. Although they've turned it up, right side up, not upside down, right side up. Saying this is the latest standard that is out. It's the latest standard that is out there. Okay? So before, the planning used to, all of you, I'm sure you can attest to that, right? The planning used to be to the left. Okay? In some of those ones, but now it's a bit different. Just like the context used to be to the left, but now they've turned it up, right side up. Planning is now up, support, performance evaluation and improvement, leadership still in the center, and context has now been put to the top with the issues and the needs coming in as input. So the diagram has changed from the diagram that is in the older version of this standard and 9001 and some of the other standards. It's a new diagram. They've turned it right side up. So instead of moving from left to the right, we're now moving from top down. And for people who are new to some of these things, that's what we call the plan, do, check, act. For people who are new to some of these things, that's what we call the plan, then do, then check, then act on it. Plan your improvements, do the things you have planned, check and review them to see if they were done properly, and then fix the areas that were not done properly. It's really as simple as that. Plan your improvements, plan your activities, do the things you plan, because that's always the problem. People plan, but they don't do. All right. All right. Then check, do a review, get an external person, use an independent person to do a review, and then act on it. So it's a new approach to the, so this is what we call the PDCA, plan, do, check, act, for the new people to this particular area of work. Okay. And so one of the things I tell people is that there are many options for conformity. There are many options for conformity. Everything is not tied to certification. Well, everything is tied to adoption, effective and efficient adoption. Everything is not necessarily tied to certification, but everything is definitely tied to adoption. Adoption is key. Adoption is important. Adoption is essential. Okay? So they've given you options. Certification being the last one there, but there are many other things even that can be done. All internal auditors should be in a class like this. All external auditors should be in a class like this. All persons in compliance should be in a class like this. So this is important, and it is also essential. So certification is just one of the ways. There's no compulsion around people being certified, but there's definitely value to being certified. But people think that if I'm not going to get certified to the standard, why should I be adopting it? No, the standard doesn't say that you must compulsorily get certified. That's not what the standard says. So that's important, okay? So once again, the terminology is in here in a lead implementer class. And I know that Training Heights has a lead implementer class in the second half of the year. But what date is that? Because in the lead implementer class, it's 3 full days. Spend almost 20 hours in the training class. We have to go through these terminologies. What exactly are these terminologies? The other thing they've done here is that they've broken the terminologies under different categories as it is. So you have the one that is for organization and leadership, you have planning, you have support and operation, and you have the final one, which is for performance evaluation and improvement. About 42 terminologies. And terminologies are important. Terminologies are important. Some people confuse the scope in 4.3 with the scope that is on number 1 here. But number 1 here is talking about the scope that the management system in itself covers. 4.3 is talking about the scope of implementation and adoption. Some people mix this scope that is number 1 here on my screen. Everybody look at it. They mix it with 4.3. So please note that they are not the same. They're 2 different things entirely. One is talking about the scope of the standard. The other one is talking about the scope of the implementation and the adoption. So there are many terminologies. Once again, in a lead implementer class or in a lead auditor class, we will go through these terminologies, what is confusing about them, what should we note, what should we take into consideration, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm going to move on very quickly. So once again, everybody, for 2 of those things, let me come back here very quickly. I'm going to go through 4.1 to 10.2 in the next 20 minutes, everybody. I'm going to blow through, or 25 minutes. I'm going to blow through 4.1 to 10.2. How many sub-clauses are here? 4 plus 3, 7. 7 plus 3, 10. 10 plus 5, 15. 15 plus 2, sorry, let me do this. 15 plus 2, 17, sorry. Okay, 17 plus 3, 20. So there are 22 sub-clauses here. So there are 7 clauses and 22 sub-clauses. And I'm going to go through this very quickly. I'm going to go through this very quickly. I'm not going to try to read the entire slides to you, and then this is not a lead implementer or lead auditor course, I cannot do all the exercises because there are actual implementation activities tied to each of these things. So when we do the lead implementer or the lead auditor courses, we do the actual exercises. How do you build a risk and opportunity register? How do you build a competence register? What does a sample environmental policy look like? How do we determine the scope of something? There's a lot of work here. So if they were seated in a lead implementer class, we will go through each of these areas and the exercises to do them in reality. This is a 3-day class and sometimes even 4 days, depending. So this is a foundation course. So the level is to know what those things are. So once again, I'm going to do this very quickly. All right, give me 1 second. Let me. Okay, good. So let's do this. So 4.1, that's a strategy issue. That's a strategy issue. You can't get this work done without strategy. The organizational strategy has got to be aligned to the strategy of the management system in itself. The management system cannot be standing in isolation. It must be aligned to the organizational strategy in itself. 4.2, your management system, this environmental management system, must meet both the needs and the expectations of interested parties. It must do two things. It must meet both the needs and the expectations of the interested parties. It must, compulsorily. It must meet the needs and the expectations. So your management system is of no value if it doesn't do that. It must do that. Okay? It must meet the needs and the expectations. So you must be certain that the management system, the environmental management system you're building, must do this in itself. Once again, this is important and it's essential. There's not a lot has changed here for people who are experts in the older version of the standard. Not a lot has really changed under 4.1 and 4.2. Some slight changes here and there, but not a lot. So you'll see some wordings have changed, some slight things. But one of the things is towards the end of that 4.1, the second point there, where it says, everybody, can you see the second paragraph under 4.1, when it says such as pollution levels? That was not in the older version. Pollution levels, availability of natural resources, climate change, biodiversity, or ecosystem health. That was not in the older version. That has just been added here. Okay? In 4.2, please take note of the notes that are at the bottom. Take note of the notes. Take the notes into consideration at the bottom. Okay? In 4.3, everybody, this is 4.3. People who have done project management training before, they've done something like this before. They've done the concept of scope management. Now, if you go to E there, for the people who are the old timers, there's some difference here over the life cycle under the alphabet E. The life cycle, right? That is an addition under E. And this is what I was saying, that you must have a scope. This thing must be driven by a certain scope. Because there's also the conversation around what is in scope and what is out of scope. We talk about that a lot in project management. What is in scope and what is out of scope? This is one of the difficult ones people struggle with. There's not, and the key word here, everybody, is a single word. And that word is the word interactions, everybody. That is the thing that most people struggle with under 4.4. That how do we really talk about the interaction of the processes? So here is the full concept of process interaction. That's what is here. The full concept of when we talk about process interaction. And a lot of people struggle with this clause. A lot of experts, a lot of auditors, a lot of different people, they struggle with this particular clause that says that how do we really show that the processes needed and the interaction of the processes? That's what makes this clause very difficult, because it means that all the clauses are not there. There is an interaction there. The opposite of interaction means that it's a standalone, that the clauses are not a standalone. There is an interaction. Once again, if it was a lead implementer class, we can go through how do we really do an interaction representation. What would the auditor want to see? What is the expectation of the standard relative to this? And that's why they've called this particular 4.4 the same name for the standard in itself, which is environmental management system. Because if these things don't interact, then you can't call it a management system. It will be a set of standalone entities. I move on very quickly. Number 5.1, leadership and the ways by which they must show their commitment to this initiative. Leadership and the ways by which they must show their commitment. This is important, especially because ESG is a global issue. It's a board issue. This is very important, extremely important. You must show compulsorily, right? Leadership, the board and the executives. The board and the executives themselves, they must compulsorily show that they are the overall owners of this management system. Okay? They must show that. So there's barely anything that has changed in this clause. 5.2, every organization must have an environmental management system. Compulsorily. So do you a policy? Sorry, I wanted to say. So do you have a policy in your organization? Is your policy available as documented information? Is it communicated? Is it available to interested parties? This is a big conversation around policy. This is a massive conversation around policy. And most organizations don't have this. If I was like my mentor, Mr. Chukuma Henacho, that is on this call, I will make it compulsory that all organizations, especially all government institutions, all private institutions, must adopt this management system. And at the very least, they must all have a policy. But the problem is not just about having the policy. Is the policy defined and designed in such a way that it meets the requirement of the standard? Is it available? Is it communicated? I always ask people that what is the evidence that the policy in itself is being executed? Because that's another conversation, the execution of the policy in itself. Okay, I move on very quickly. In the former version, they used to call these organizational roles. Now they no longer call it organizational roles. They just call it roles, responsibilities, and authority. Okay, so they used to call it organizational. They've taken up the organizational. Now it's just roles, responsibilities, and authorities. So you need to, everybody, I need you to type something into Google or wherever you want to type it. It's called the RASCI model, or type it into ChatGPT, everybody. RASCI. And I also want you to ask ChatGPT, what is the use and the value of the RASCI model? Everybody, and somebody should put a RASCI representation in the chat room for me. Very quickly. What is the use and the value of the RASCI model? RASCI. What is the use and the value of the RASCI model? Okay, because that model is extremely useful for this particular subclause in itself. Now there is the RACI model, but I prefer the RASCI model. And so can somebody tell me what's the advantage of RASCI over RACI? RACI versus RASCI. Somebody, Kayode, all the experts in the room, what is the RASCI model? And what is the advantage of the RASCI model over the RACI model, RACI? Okay. Good. There's a lot of rework that has happened around this. So everybody, if you look at this, the actions to address risks and opportunities. The actions to address risks and opportunities. There's a lot that has happened around here. Okay. There's a lot that has happened here. Okay. Because people only think about the threats. They don't think about the opportunities. People only think about the threats. They do not think about the opportunities. People only think about the threats. They do not think about the opportunities.
Hello, sir.
Yes?
You mean RAC, race, yeah?
RACI versus RASCI.
Right.
Okay?
The ACI.
RACI versus RASCI. So it's important that you really understand what this is: a risk register, an opportunity register, or a threat register and an opportunity register. It's important that you understand this. So once again, the concept of threats, but they are also telling you also think about the opportunity. Think about the opportunity. Don't just think about the threats. Also under 6.1, everybody, you have compliance, because most organizations have to report compliance. Most organizations have to report compliance. They made it very clean and very clear. Once again, risks and opportunities. When you think about it, those we always think about threats and opportunities, negative and positive. And I think I shared that in one of my tables. Also, the concept here is that how this thing is from the perspective of the interested parties, both the internal and external interested parties, from both the internal and external interested parties. Okay. And of course, there's a new subclause, which is the 6 point, yeah, this, right? So look at where they've come to hide risk and opportunities. So they rearranged number 6 completely. All right. They rearranged number 6 completely. And of course, 6.2, the objectives and the plans to achieve them. It's good for you to have objectives. It's more important that you have clear plans to achieve them. It's good that you have objectives. It's more important that you have clear plans to achieve them. The objectives and the plans to achieve the objectives. The objectives and the plans to achieve the objectives. So you have to define the objectives for this for your own organization and the plans to achieve them. So you can see here, it gives you criteria to measure if the objectives are being defined appropriately. And then here, it tells you, gives you the criteria to define if the planning is being done properly. It doesn't tell you the objectives for your own organization. Neither does it give you the plans for your own organization, but it gives you the criteria to determine if the objectives are being carried out properly, and the criteria to know if the plan or the planning is being done appropriately. Okay? And then, of course, they've introduced 6.3, which is completely brand new in this version. This was not in the older version. The planning of changes. Because I mean, they say change is one of the only constants in life. So you're always going to have one thing or the other that needs to change. So you need to track the change. You need to proactively imagine the change. You have to manage the change effectively. I mean, it's a variety of things tied to change. Once again, the need for the change, the plan the change, manage the change, achieve intended outcomes. Review continual improvement. I don't know if Mr. Muiwa is on this call. Somebody should please get Mr. Muiwa on this call. Muiwa, please beat me if you're here on this call. 7, very quickly, you need all sorts of things to support the management system. You need all sorts of things to support the management system. So for you to have a working management system, you need resources. For you to have a good management system, you need competent people. For you to have a great management system, you need resources, various categories of resources. You also need competence across many things. So the standard is pretty clear. It's precise, it's beautiful, it's pretty clear when it comes to this. So you need resources, you need competent people, you need your stakeholders, internal and external interested parties to be aware. So there's a lot of awareness conversation here. There's a lot of awareness conversation in here. Okay? If you're going to get any management system right, you have to do a lot of awareness, and it's both internal and external. You also need to communicate effectively if you're going to get management systems done properly. You need to communicate effectively if you're going to get management systems done properly. You're going to work with the corporate communications department, just like when it comes to competence. You're going to have to work with the HR department. When it comes to resources, you're going to have to work with finance department. So finance is involved with resource management. HR is involved with competence management. HR is involved with awareness. Corporate comms department is involved with communication. How people implement management systems without getting other units and departments, just like risks that we're looking at. You're going to have to work with the risk management department of the organization. So how people end up doing these management systems in isolation, I don't understand. Because the person in charge of environmental management might not be the person that usually is not the person in charge of corporate communication. So you have to work closely with that department. And then, of course, documented information. This is a big deal, everybody. The concept of documented information. This is a massive deal. The concept of documented information, the entire document management lifecycle. You cannot have a company that does not have documents. And documents have to be managed, they have to be controlled, they have to be versioned, they have to be labeled, they have to be kept safe. I mean, it's a variety of things around the concept of document management. Okay? Then, of course, the operation of the management system. The management system and its operation, operational planning and control. Because it's a management system, it needs to be operated, not just designed, not just put together. It must be operated. The specific actions that you need to carry out. And then, of course, this concept of emergency, because we're talking about environmental management system, we have to be ready for some kind of emergency, something that can go wrong. This is important. And then, of course, if people say that if it cannot be measured, then it cannot be improved. So there's a concept, or I like to call it MMAE. Monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. That's what I like to call it, MMAE. I like to use that as a mnemonic to remember this. If it can't be measured, it cannot be improved. These are like KPIs. Every management system must be measured. And of course, the conversation of compliance here again. Of course, internal audits. Who is an internal auditor on the call? Please put your hands in the chat room. Let me clap for you. You're an internal auditor on the call. And you know that there is a new version of everybody, can you go and check out the standard 19011? There's a 2025 version of that standard. A lot of internal auditors don't even know about the existence of the standard 19011. 19011. Everybody go and check. And there's a 2025 version of that standard. You cannot be an internal auditor or external auditor that you don't know that particular standard. You must be an expert in the use of that standard. Then, of course, management review. The overall heads and the bosses and the big people in the organization need to be involved with the management system. They need to do monthly, quarterly, whatever it is that they judge to be appropriate. I always recommend quarterly, but whatever the organization picks. You can see at the beginning there, it says at planned intervals, at planned intervals. And then the other thing here is that it breaks the work down into certain areas. Okay. So this is also key. I think there's a portion that is missing here because there is the review outputs. I might have missed that portion. There's a review output here. I'll update it here because that's one of the things. It breaks the work. It breaks the work into, where is it now? Where is it? Yeah. Here, everybody, it breaks 9.3.2. It breaks 9.3.2 from 9.3.3. So I think I missed something out there. I just saw it because I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. So I will update it before I share this with you. So there is the review inputs and then there's the review outputs. I will update it. I know I missed out that bit. And lastly, it's 10.1. 10.1 used to be general. It has brought what used to be 10.3. It has brought it to 10.1 now. Okay. It's about what used to be 10.3. It has brought it to 10.1, the concept of continual improvement. And so one question I'm going to ask you, your organization, what is your level of maturity? Because people think that once they're certified, that is heaven. Certification is not heaven. There's also the concept of continual, of maturity improvement. So you can keep climbing the maturity ladder. Most people are certified at maturity level 2. It doesn't mean that they're maturity level 3. And that's important. And lastly, it's non-conformity and corrective action. So it brought 10.3 to 10.1, then erased 10.3 completely, and now we still have 10.2 where it used to be. So the idea here is that if you violate continual improvement as a subclause, we would even capture that in itself as a non-conformity in itself, if you violate continual improvement. All right, people, those are the clauses of the standard. I said I was going to do it in about 30 minutes. I think I succeeded in doing it. This is the whole standard. 4.1, those 22 subclauses, 7 clauses and 22 subclauses. So I'm going to encourage all of you to go back to your organizations to help drive the implementation and the adoption of this particular management system. It's a brilliant management system. Remember some of the things I said earlier? You know, I talked about, I've said many things today I can't even remember, so I'm not going to try to re-say everything. But if I was going to show you one slide, once again, what aspects is your organization negatively, intentionally or unintentionally contributing towards? Which aspect here? How are you assessing that particular aspect? The aspect that your organization is negatively contributing towards, intentionally or unintentionally. How are you addressing it? What exactly is the mitigation, the intervention that you're putting in place? And then the whole standard in itself. The whole standard in itself. Lastly, here, for me, is the concept of an integrated management system. Remember I showed you this slide. Let me put this up, right? We've come to the end of this session. You need to fill the feedback form. Most people need to implement the first 3 standards, either on the business side or on the IT side, collectively as an integrated management system. Most people need to do that. They need to implement the business sides together or the IT sides together. So the concept of an integrated management system is what your organization also needs to go to think about. And there's a new document. This document came out like 2 months ago. This document, it's a brand new document from ISO in itself that gives a lot of guidance in terms of how an integrated management system should be done. It's a new document, less than 60 days old. It's a new document. So for those of you that have to build an integrated management system, it's important that you understand this so that you can effectively integrate the management system. It's a brilliant document, provides a lot of guidance, tells you about the benefits of integrated management system, gives you a roadmap and an approach to getting integrated management system done, gives some guidelines, gives you the steps. So for all those people who build integrated management systems, this is important. If you want to build it properly, and appropriately. Right, so thank you very much, everyone. 3 more things. I want you to tell me what's your big takeaway as a person, everybody. And then I need you to fill the feedback form quickly. Those are all right. And lastly, what's your big takeaway, everybody? I want to hear from you very quickly. Yes, 14055. Yes. That's the standard. Yes, 14055. Yeah, I forgot. So everybody, those are the things I want from you very quickly. Our organization is Training Nights. Follow us. Join our WhatsApp group. You will not be disappointed. So please, I want everybody to put what exactly is your big learning point from today. What's your big takeaway? And please fill the feedback form. I want to hear from everybody. If you've gotten any benefit from this session today, I want you to share with me what's your big takeaway. Everybody. I want everybody to share the big takeaway. What's your personal takeaway from today? And apart from that,
you're looking so good, Mr. Orlando.
Yes. Who was that? Who was speaking?
I mean, you are looking so good.
Okay, good. Thank you. My pleasure. So I want feedback in the chat room, everybody. So I want you to tell me what's your big takeaway, and I need you to also please fill the feedback form. Quickly, I want to hear from everybody. What's your personal takeaway? What's that one thing that is your personal takeaway today? Very quickly. I wanted to do, it's a 2-hour session and we're done right now, but you must fill the feedback form. And then I need you to tell me your personal takeaway. Do you want me to start calling names? Please, everybody in the chat room. I want everybody to come to the chat room. What's your personal takeaway? Chukudi, thank you very much. Flabo, thank you very much. Eric, thank you. Okay. Quickly, everybody, what's your personal takeaway? And please fill the feedback form. Adedeji Adeyemi, thank you. Brilliant. Please fill the feedback form, everybody. And you can join WhatsApp group. You will be adequately educated. There are all sorts of things that we're doing. Blessing, thank you very much. Emmanuel, thank you. Alima, thank you very much. Who else is here? There's so many persons here. Chineme, thank you. All right, good. VT, thank you. John, I saw what you put in there. Sorry, Joseph Okon, I saw what you put in there. Farouk, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so, but yeah, I prefer ASCII. But yeah, you're right, John Okon, right? That, Olaoluwa, thank you. Joseph Okon, yeah, the support function. And sometimes it might make it a bit more complex, but it also brings a lot of clarity to, because otherwise, everybody under support, you have to put them under responsible. Everybody under support, you have to put them, right? Thank you. Farouk, thank you very much. It's great to have you here. Yeah. Thank you. Abimbola, thank you very much. Glory, thank you. Aaron, thank you very much. Everybody, please fill the feedback form. Fill the feedback form. Let me take takeaways from others, and then we'll take a group picture together. Please switch on your cameras. Let's quickly do that. It's usually for our own internal archives. Everybody, quickly, let's do that. If you do not mind, that is my payment for this class. Please, we need to put it in as part of our, that's why I needed to fill the feedback form. I also needed to put your big takeaway and switch on your cameras if you do not mind. Borden, please do this very quickly. I appreciate you. Chineme, once again, thank you. Rita, thank you. Glory, thank you. Eric, thank you. Who else is here? Okay. So, right. Quickly, I want to take others. I want to take others very quickly so that we can round this up. Right. Who else? Blessing is here. Emmanuel, where are you? Farouk, where are you? Ajara, where are you? Maria, Botemi, Kayode, Olaoluwa, Cynthia, Oluwa, Femi, Thabo, Esther, Titi Lokwe, everybody. Quickly, let's do this. Let's do this very quickly. Adedeji Kehinde, Morris, Sandra, Emmanuel. All right. Thank you, Joseph. Lookman, Oladeji, VT, Sunday. Quickly, everybody. Olaoluwa, Beyoku. Well done. Emmanuel, others. Bethel, where are you? Very quickly. Where are all the training nights people? Alima, where are you? Victoria, where are you? Bright, where are you? Where are all the people? Very quickly. I can't see your beautiful faces.
We are here. Thank you for the
Right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay,
Thank
good.
you very much. That was an insightful training. Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. I'm happy that this has gone pretty well. So a big thank you. Everybody, a round of applause to yourselves for attending and staying to the end. Everybody, a round of applause for yourselves for attending and for staying all the way to the end. Thank you very much. We will share the slides with you, and we'll also share the exam link. When we share the exam link, we're going to give you 48 hours to complete it, or maximum 72. So please, we're going to take it off after 48 to 70 or 48 hours. So we will share the slides, and then we will share the exam link for the foundation exam. So once again, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you all. God bless you. And I look forward to seeing you in other sessions. Stella, thank you. Stella Ogo, thank you very much, Madam Stella. Thank you. Where is my boss? Where is Mr. Iheanacho? Are you here, sir? All right. My mentor, my coach, Mr. Iheanacho Chukuma. Thank you for taking out the time to be here. Appreciate all of you, Esther, everybody. Thank you very much. God bless you. The pleasure has been mine today. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Thank you.
Okay.